Welcome to the Shirl and Shirley Show. Today, my guest is Matt Zacher. He is the mayor of Wisconsin Rapids, and he's here to talk about all the good, the bad, the ugly that's going on in Wisconsin Rapids, and most of it is good. So welcome, Matt, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, thanks, Shirl. I appreciate it. Always fun to talk to people about the community and things that are going on. It's a little past a year and a half. Hard to believe how fast that came. So I do actually have to, start talking to people about, my decision already is to run again. Jenny,
Good.
my wife Jenny's on board. The kids are good. Um, so I knew I would at least do 2 terms. And the nice thing about this is the council voted this year to extend the 2-year term to a 3-year term from now on. So if I get
Nice.
elected at the end of this year, um, then it would be a 3-year term. So at 5 years, I'll know for sure if I'm having an impact, if this is a good thing for the community.
Mhm.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't want to just be here to fill a position. Like was never my intention.
It takes a lot of time, just to learn the whole process of what happens behind the scenes and all, and
Yeah.
what it takes to be the mayor of a city of 18,000 people?
Yeah, 18,000. But I from the beginning have said that this is like, we are one big community. Like, you live
Yes.
out in Grand Rapids here,
Hmm.
but in the end, what we do in the city impacts everybody. Granted, I don't get to vote for you, yeah, but you also don't pay, taxes for the
Hmm.
infrastructure that's used. So it's kind of it's an interesting situation, but I do see all of us as one big community. So I try to communicate with all the leaders of the different towns and villages, and make sure that we are at least connected to the degree that hopefully we can have honest conversations about
Hmm.
big stuff like EMS services, which is going to impact, and it's only going to become more so as we're dealing with the large baby boomer population, people using it as a healthcare service more than an emergency service.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions out there, and how do we do it so that it's as fair as possible for the city residents who are flipping the bill, and then all the outlying areas that need the same services, but at the same time have to be able to contribute enough money to make it fair for the residents in the city. So
Sure.
tricky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just one little thing.
That's just one little thing. It is a big thing.
Yeah.
I would say that's a bigger thing that we're still trying to work out. There's so many of the little things. Again, I didn't realize, like you said, there's just under
Yes.
18,000 people in the city residents, 40,000 in all
Mhm.
the outlying areas that we're connected to, 230 employees in the city itself. They have me in charge of 18 departments.
Wow.
I'm not complaining about that. It's a tricky ratio, 1
Yeah.
to 18 versus like 1 to 5 or something that is typical in the industry, I feel like.
And you still have a job too.
Yeah, I'm still CEO, but for the most part, Express Recycling is running really well without
Good.
me. They call me when they need me.
Sure.
I meet up with them once a week, whether
Yeah.
it's the managers or the employees, just to
Yeah.
let them know I'm still here and connected. They're all doing good. And
Good.
still making big decisions. We've made some big calls on growth opportunities and
Good.
machinery. So yeah, things are still happening. But for me to step aside and let us use that money for more employees, it's been a good thing too. And
Yeah.
as long
Good.
as the city's happy with my services as mayor,
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win for everybody right now.
I haven't heard anything super bad,
Oh, that's
nothing.
good.
Yeah, I mean, it is good because,
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people,
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, when I talk to people, I'm always asking, what do you think about the mayor? What do you think
Mhm.
about this? What do you think about what's happening here?
Yeah,
How's Mid-State doing?
yeah,
I
yeah,
talk about all kinds of things because I think I should.
yeah.
And I think locally, that's an impact.
Mhm.
I mean, I know that people go on the Jim Maloof, is it that, they go on that one?
James Maloff,
Yeah,
yeah,
James,
yeah,
James. Yeah.
WFHR.
Yeah, and they're only on there though for like 5 minutes or whatever,
About
10, 15,
15, yeah,
yeah,
something.
max.
It goes fast, yeah.
How much can you get in there? Talk to like Senator Pat Teston about this too. We can have a conversation like you and I are doing
Yeah.
today, which I think is very helpful
Mhm.
because then it can get out to everyone and anyone can listen to it. And I
Yes.
think that's really important, and especially for citizens in this area, in the
Yes.
Wisconsin Rapids area. And I consider Grand Rapids part Wisconsin Rapids area.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel like it too. I see some benefits. I mean, I was excited that like PetSmart and Marshalls came in,
Yeah.
and we just talked about a little bit about some of the places that have closed, but then also you stated, well, there's some that close and some that open, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cyclical. Every day I get emails or whatever about, bring in this store, bring in this
Mhm.
restaurant. In the end, it's open to business for everybody.
Absolutely.
But we as the government do not start businesses. We can encourage anybody that wants to come, but for the most part, any chain restaurant has already like done their studies or work or whatever
Absolutely.
to say this is where we're moving next. Like
Mhm.
Noodles and Company moving in here
Mhm.
recently, Cadova moving in recently, and then we have some local ones. Yeah, Rodeo Bar and Grill opened up, and we wish everybody the best. It's tricky though because you only have so many people in Wisconsin Rapids and the surrounding area. You got to get all of them to continue to rotate through their restaurants in order to share the wealth, I guess you would
Right.
say.
Yeah.
You're going to have restaurants that kind of run their course, like Applebee's. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been around a long time, and I think everybody, had their time that they went there, and little by little they chose other places. Applebee's has to make a decision at some point in time to say, okay, we're closing up this one and reinvesting over here. But then that opens up a great restaurant building with a bar and everything else
Mhm.
for a new company moving in. And then it
Yeah.
gets everybody excited again.
Yeah.
Who's
It does.
coming?
Yeah.
Where's it going to come? So ultimately, yeah, if I would say anything, if you like a restaurant, you got to keep going back to it.
I
That's the only
totally
thing that's going to keep it in the area.
Totally agree with that,
Yeah.
100%. I think like, supper clubs,
Mhm.
we've only got a few supper clubs around and some of them close during the winter and stuff, and it's like you miss that
Yeah.
when they're not here, and it's like when they open again, like in April, and then all of a sudden, boy, boom, they're busy for a
Yeah.
while, and then
Yeah.
it kinda calms down a little bit, but then the summer people come.
Yeah.
I mean, it can really take a
Yeah.
toll in this area. This area is very interesting,
Supper clubs
truthfully.
are interesting just because, you
Mhm.
gotta be a person that is one capable of and then willing to spend that kind of money on a dinner.
Yes,
So it's
absolutely.
if you can do it, it's maybe once or twice a year, not every weekend.
Right, and then also, if you have kids, a
Yeah,
lot of times you
because
don't
then
wanna
you
take
fill
your
a
kids to
table.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spend $40 on a kid's meal. Really, they probably won't even eat everything.
Yeah.
They might
Yeah.
not like a baked potato or something, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it 100%. I do enjoy the supper clubs as
Yes.
me being
Yes.
me
Mm,
and my husband, that's kind of what we go for is
yeah.
the
And
traditional Wisconsin supper clubs.
I saw a book recently about supper clubs in Wisconsin, so then you can kind of, again, you want to support local, but at the same time, if you want some variety in your own
Yeah.
life, you'd
Oh, yeah.
travel, hour or two away
Oh,
and
yeah.
make it a Sunday afternoon or a day or,
Yeah, we
you
went
know,
to one, recently with our son and his wife. They live down in Portage
okay.
and been in business,
Yeah.
I guess, like 70 years or something, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, they've redone it and added on. It was really great.
Mhm.
I mean, it was fantastic food, and they are the home of the $4 old fashioned. Well,
Yeah.
who can't go there, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you have to try that. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about paper mill and
Mhm.
what's gone on over there. I mean, I just saw in I think it was Wednesday's little City Times or something about Senator Tustin, or he sent an update about it with the pictures of the mill coming down and stuff.
Mhm.
That's been pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of talk about
Yeah, it's interesting because CRG Capital Recovery Group bought that from Billerud right around the same time that I got elected in the first term. Part of my platform, the fourth point was being as close a part of the conversation with the mill as I could be without as much as they would let me, because ultimately they don't have to let us do anything. Our
correct.
only job is to make sure the permits are there and everything is done legally according to the zoning codes and the statutes and all that. So the fact that early on, Glenn Gilbert is the spokesperson, kind of the face of the organization. Bill Firestone is the owner of CRG. And the way they set it up was to let Glenn be kind of the face and have conversations. So he opened the door right away, and he knows, what we can and can't talk about. I have to sign non-disclosure
Oh, sure.
agreements with them and with everybody else that's a part of all these conversations.
Mhm.
So then I walk a fine line of saying, okay, my job is, in my opinion, is to communicate well. Another part of my platform is communicate with the community well and get the communication within the organization of the city running well too. So if I'm able to learn all this stuff about the mill and they're willing to trust me, I have to make sure I don't break the trust and I keep everything confidential that needs to be confidential.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, talk about what's going on so that the people in the community feel comfortable. And I have, in my opinion, I've done really well, but I've heard recently from somebody prominent in the community that they don't know what's going on. They don't hear anything about what's going on. And I'm like, it tells a lot about the fact that we're still struggling with how do we communicate effectively.
Sure.
I'm working with the newspapers, radio stations, TV, podcasting,
Yeah.
that we get everything we can out on our social media.
Mhm.
That is all of those things that is stated. And we're putting it out there and I'm giving as much information as I can without breaking anyone's trust. So it does say that we still have work to do. And one of the things that I did on that platform is to continue to create. We're going to be releasing some new information, getting permission to say, okay, we're going to we're going to create a bigger, broader communications department and get more people
Okay.
involved in how that plays out so that we know, that we are having an impact and we are getting out to the people. First thing we did, and it took way longer than I would have thought that it would take, but it's because it's a long process when you're completely revamping the website. So we just released our new website, and it is at wirapids.gov now. So we ended up going through not only the website changeover, but our IT department, Tyler and Kelly, did a great job transitioning right away to a .gov domain, which
Perfect.
then protects everybody using the website more because they know that it's a legitimate website, and everybody that is getting information, they're not going to get it unless it's from like a .gov domain, which means, okay, we can trust it because it's highly regulated and highly monitored. So it is a good protective mechanism. Website is doing great. Emily can spend a great deal of time with the backup of Joe Bachman and Taylor Hale at the WRCM, plus the IT department, to just really go through everything and say, okay, the old website is gone. We need to start over, take the new stuff. How do we make it flow? How do we make sure when people are coming for information, they're getting it as quickly as possible? They need to ask questions. How do they get to us as quick as possible, get the information back to them? So we've focused on all this stuff. So far, it's only positive feedback. I also made sure that Emily has the permission to turn on the comments again, because for a while they're turned off, and I don't believe in that. If people, ultimately, we have to be adults too and say, if people are saying nasty stuff, we can handle it. We don't have to respond back to it. But for all the information that is being asked for and we're not giving them, that just gives that bad taste about government again. So
yeah, it does.
Especially at a local level. Turn on the comments, weed through the stuff that's just
crazy.
Crazy, horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Get to the stuff they're seeking information. And even if they're being a little snarky about it, what we found out was give them the information politely, direct them to where they need to go, answer questions. And typically they respond back by saying, Thank you for the information. I apologize for my attitude. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to us. Or they just delete their comments.
I think sometimes, sometimes people get
by
frustrated. They get frustrated if they can't get hold of someone or something. They get frustrated. And when you're sitting behind a computer, you can type things out that maybe you wouldn't say if you called somebody on the phone or you said it face to face. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's the best way to handle it. Let them put their comments, because usually if you do that, they will end up taking them down and say, hey, I just needed some help. I couldn't get anybody. Because I know when I get on hold, sometimes it's it's like, okay, how long am I going to be sitting here? It's very frustrating.
I see it even in the one-on-one interactions. I would prefer to speak to people one-on-one because you can, between body language and facial expressions, if they're understanding what you're saying versus just hearing it a different way and then responding back in a way that you just go on two separate paths instead of getting to the meat of what you need to get to. So I have taken a lot of time. I don't spend a ton of time in the office. I'd rather be here with you so that I can reach people through your podcast and reach the community. If people are calling, sometimes people just want the honorary thing of going to the mayor's office, not necessarily me as mayor.
Yeah,
so I say, that's fine. I'll meet you back there. I'll be back in 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll go to their house or I'll go to their business and meet them there and kind of see what's going on and help if I can. Again, I had 20 years of business helps, 4 years of military, like it all just kind of makes you think a bigger picture, I guess, as to how life works and how I can help. And again, it's not like I have all the magic answers, but certainly just having conversations then allows the people who are running businesses to open their mind maybe a little bit more to ideas and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Matt Zacher, the man of the people.
Well, I try, hopefully.
Well, it says that right there. I mean, it says that if you're willing to do that, go to somebody's home and just talk to them or wherever, I think that says a lot about you as a mayor and as a person.
Yeah.
Like you said, well-rounded, you have business, you've been in the military, you know how to communicate.
Yeah.
You know how to listen and you know how to talk. And I think that's really important as a mayor in a city like this.
Yes.
And, we have such a it is a very diverse city. We have a lot of different kinds of people that live here, which I think that's very interesting too.
Yeah. I think even more so with today's day and age, like, I don't know how eclectic we were back in the day. You can only know what you hear. And it seemed like everybody was kind of on the same page. I don't know if it changed or if the voices are just the social media just made it more easier for people to express their opinions. The downside is we seem to want to choose one far side or the other versus really, in my opinion, and I don't know this statistics offhand, but I just go by 95% of us are all good, sane, rational, logical people working, are making our money, feeding, taking care of our families and all that stuff. And then you got the 2.5% on each side that they're just out, like their ideas are out there. I don't want to insult them and call them names or anything like that, but they're just so far on one side or the other. That's fine. The downside is they seem to get the media's, they get the, because they
greasy wheel,
headlines.
greasy wheel.
They make money for the media and the podcast, not podcasting, but kind of.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the internet stuff being, very far on one side. Not always. You get a lot of the people in the middle, and that's where you find enough people and listen to them. And
you're better than I am. You say 2.5% on each side. I say 10%, 10%, and about 80% that can talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And I consider myself one of those, even though some people wouldn't consider me that. But I am. I'm somebody who'll talk to anybody, and I think it's really a good thing to be able to communicate with anyone. I want to understand why somebody doesn't think the same way that I do, or that I don't think the same way they do. I like to understand that, and actually it can get you into some really good conversations about lots of things going on, things that maybe you don't understand that someone else has gone through.
Right.
And then when you get there, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it, why they feel that way.
Right.
Yeah,
I've learned typically it's if somebody's really looking to like pigeonhole me, most Republicans will think I'm a Democrat. If they're really, harder core, and most Democrats will think I'm a Republican.
It's very interesting, but that's what you're supposed to be, as a centrist. You're as the mayor.
Yeah.
That's what your job is.
Yeah. If I choose a side, I isolate 50%.
Absolutely.
You could look at it that way.
Yeah.
50% of the population.
Yes. And I don't think that's right. No,
Right.
There is no need for it. So you have to communicate with everyone.
Yeah.
That's what I always get, when somebody's elected. It doesn't matter what party they are. I mean, I always think it's funny that like a sheriff or a district attorney or a judge has to run as, declared as a candidate.
Yeah.
The judges don't really have to, circuit court and stuff like that. But when you run as a sheriff, you have to declare yourself as a party. And I think that's interesting. And DA stuff, it's kind of silly because you serve everyone.
I didn't.
It's just weird. Those things are weird.
I didn't think that. And I didn't really know they needed to declare.
Yeah, they do.
Why would that be?
I don't know. I can't answer that. It's been something that I've always thought about, like, okay, so you're elected a Democrat, let's say sheriff. And so what? You're going to treat Republicans or independents or anyone else different?
Right.
You can't.
That's not your job.
No. So it's very interesting to me. I've always thought that was interesting.
Well, the other thing that to kind of piggyback off that is I didn't realize probably the hardest thing to adjust to, like in my mind, this was a job. Understood that I was being elected and I needed to, I guess to me, the campaign was like job interview.
Yeah.
And if I, can speak to the people and they're like, okay, I trust this person, that they're telling me the truth. And this is who we want to hire to run our city for the next 2 years or whatever. But what I wasn't expecting was, and I know most people, they're out joking in a way. What do I do now? Do I bow down to you? Do I, it's politics is what it is, unfortunately. It's like almost a celebrity type thing. And I don't want that part of it.
Right.
But at the same time, it was there. So it's
too bad, so sad, dude, because you're there.
Yeah. It's something I had to adjust to quick. And my wife did too.
Your family.
That same treatment. But in the end, when you look at it as this is my job, like, no matter who you are, I've always lived my life saying there's nobody above me and there's nobody below me. Like I just treat everybody the same. And that way, when we communicate, I can't control how other people react and act towards me, but I can always make sure that I'm treating them the same.
That's very true. I mean, you can't, and some people, like I say, 10%, they're going to react however they want. They're going to post whatever they want. Sometimes they hide behind names and things, and that bothers me a lot. You'll see in anything to do with me, it has my name fully on it. Yeah. My opinions are my own,
right,
and I stand by that. But I'm also very willing to talk to anybody to say, maybe try to get me to understand or change my mind.
Yeah.
And I am somebody who can do that. I think that comes with age and wisdom, maybe a little bit too, that I've learned through time. Yeah. I've learned through time that politics are just politics. Everybody, when you're elected to a position, you're in it, whether you want to be or not. And I don't think you were a really political guy before this, because I remember the first time you and I talked.
Yeah.
And
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I was always curious. I joined because I wanted to know if people were really divided. And if what was happening was really happening, or if the media was really actually making it into something.
And what's your decision on that?
The media is making it into something.
It's very interesting.
Like even those, whatever, if it's 10 or 2.5%.
Yeah.
If you're patient and you don't say, it's kind of like saying, let your ego down, I guess.
Sure.
Like you don't have to win the argument, but you can continue to converse with them and get their points of view. And I did find, to your point before, if somebody thinks that I am so far on one side that they want to stop the conversation, like it can't go any further. It's a them thing. It's not a me thing,
Right.
because I'm more than happy to just continue the conversation without trying to prove I'm right and they're wrong, and just say, I accept you and respect you for your opinions
My
on
thing has
life.
always been, I can agree to disagree and
Mhm.
we can move on. I'm
Yeah.
not going to dislike you. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to
Right.
be rude. And I find that that's very interesting because I do see that there's a lot of people out there that don't
Mhm.
like that. I worked a booth at the fair recently, and there was a gentleman that just was being obstinate, and
Yeah.
and I don't get like that. My temperature stays here.
Mhm.
I never go boom, up to there 90 degrees instantly and start yelling and screaming at someone. It just doesn't, that's not effective.
There's more to that person's life story than we can figure
Absolutely.
out in a minute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt about it was like, you're saying that, but it makes no
Mhm.
sense to me. Just have to agree to disagree and have a good day.
Right.
That's all there is to it. And
Yeah.
you can't, there's
Life
some,
isn't going to change
no,
if we yell at each other.
no, it doesn't. And it's sort of like it's a waste of my time and energy.
Mhm.
And I don't have time for that stuff. I need to focus on what's good and I always think this too. Like if we'd only use our power for good, not evil,
Mhm.
we could solve anything. We
Yeah,
really
yeah.
could.
What's the other saying? Isn't it great what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit for it?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
it too, right there. Is I don't really need a pat on the back.
Right.
I just need to do what I think is right
Mhm.
and do the best I can, and I'll help anyone. And that's it. Still to this day, I mean, a tree falls down in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
All the neighbors come to help.
Yeah.
We don't go, "Hey, who do you like? Who do you not like?" We don't do that. We just help.
Yeah.
And that's what it should be like.
Right.
That's how we're supposed to be like, is helping our neighbors in our community. And I think our community is really a tight-knit community in many ways. Like you say, there's always going to be some
Yeah.
that are going to be obstinate to other things. But let's talk about a little bit about there was supposed to be a business moving in here and then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
So
I
that
don't
goes into the big picture of the entirety of the mill. And I think I'd like to start from the beginning on that.
okay.
Um, just because when I think information is out there and maybe it's not, but to be able to get it out as many times as possible in as many ways as possible. So the mill was bought by CRG, and as I said, Glenn Gilbert is their spokesperson, to interact with the public. So they've allowed the conversation to continue, and we just make sure that we're keeping their trust. So what they did is they bought the entirety of the mill, the land and all the buildings that are on it.
Okay.
It, actually, except for Quebco, Quebco is Consolidated Water and Power Company,
Oh yeah.
which was the power company that was built by Consolidated Paper Company when it was,
Mhm.
growing.
Sure.
Just a quick little tidbit of information on that. So back in the day when they first built the dams and they were creating power, in hopes of making their own power, they had an abundance of power at that time. So they actually were providing the power for all of Wisconsin Rapids.
Wow, I didn't know
citizens.
that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But then as they continued building more mills and more machines were going in, they needed more power. That's when they said, okay, we can't provide you with the power anymore because we need it, but we can show you what we learned. And they spun off our own power company, which then became WWLC, and helped them get that started so that
Okay.
so that the infrastructure that was already built by Quebco could be taken over by the city itself and used to serve the residents. So WWLC, since that point, I think it's somewhere in the 20s, like 26,
Okay.
is when they started in action and
Wow.
took it over. And so they provide the power for pretty much everybody in the area, to include the new companies coming in, stuff like that. To make a correlation, that is about 30 megawatts of power, and the dams themselves create about 30 megawatts of power. Just to know that the dams don't generate the power directly for the city. It just goes into the overall
Sure.
system of energy flowing through. So anyways, I know it's a little bit of sidebar, but I've been working a lot on that and understanding, because Quebco is very, very important to the future of Wisconsin Rapids.
Oh, okay.
So hold on to that for a minute. So they bought everything. CRG owns all the land right now, but the base mill was sold to Sunoco, who is the company that bought out Corenzo, who is the company that was making the core tubes and cores for like 3M and companies like that. They did shift some of their operations to other mills. They kept the pulping mill in that was already there active. And then they bought the base mill. They now own the entire mill. That's right when you come over the Jackson Street Bridge, that whole building. That was the original mill. And it's really like, I'm going to say like 20 some odd additions. Like if you look at the roof of it, it's like 20 different buildings.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. That was 120 years old that they started. I don't know exactly if that's the building, but how it grew from there. Sunoco bought it. They're bringing in new machines. They're growing their business. They have about 150 employees, looking
Wow,
to
good.
grow more, bringing in renters for space just because there's such an abundance of space.
Mhm.
And that is part of the dam generation. The electrical generation is connected to that building also. So it's important in that sense. The converting mill, which is the next big building back, which is multiple buildings over the years also, but that was bought or maintained ownership and bought from Billerud, because Billerud owns two mills up in, I'm not going to show it exactly, but Escanaba
Oh,
and another city up in the Upper Peninsula area.
oh,
So
okay.
they, instead of building a new facility up there for an ungodly amount of money, they
Mhm.
said, let's transport the paper here and let's, add on to this facility and use what's already been built. So they made that decision. They're build it, investing in the infrastructure. They also have somewhere around 150 employees in there, and they continue
Nice.
to grow that. So that's the two main buildings there for the mill. Now the other big building is the 16 building, and that had the 16 machine in it. And again, when I talk about all this stuff, I know it's quick terms, but it took 120 years to build all this. And it was just amazing when you see what they had built in there and
Yeah.
all the ingenuity and the know-how,
Oh,
the
sure.
smarts that went into
Yeah.
this by the workers and the engineers and everybody. It's just phenomenal. So there's a sad element to this,
Yeah.
but at the same time, people are allowing me the ability to say, let's look to the future, because
Sure.
we don't want this to sit here and deteriorate. That's
Yeah.
going to be worse for the community. So let's make the changes we have to make, honor the past, but also look forward to the future. So that 16 building, the machine was sold. It's being moved over to India.
Wow.
Again, I get, when I think about trying to, put together IKEA furniture, I get sweaty palms. I
Yeah,
try to make
right.
sure I
Yeah.
don't have a bunch of stuff left over. I can't even imagine taking apart this machine, moving it overseas and
No,
reassembling it
me
there.
neither.
It's just phenomenal that they
Yeah.
can do that. So we give them the credit for doing that, but also cleaning out this building. So I've always said it could be a building that can house one big company, or it could be 20 smaller companies. The
Mhm.
amount of space and power that's in there is astronomical, So
Awesome.
it's a great building. There are people that are looking at it.
Well,
Those are the NDA stuff that you
yeah,
can't
sure.
talk about names
Absolutely.
and all that,
Right.
but under respect for that, there's interest in it. And as soon as we can talk about it, we will talk about it. Then the craft mill, which has been coming down over the last year, they projected 18 months. I think they're relatively on track still. It may take a little bit longer, but
Mhm.
they're a company that they're called MRD, and they are the owner's name is Jerry Bloomberg. He was originally from this area.
Oh, wow.
I believe what he told me is he was kind of a logger. He was driving truck for
Okay.
logging, but some of his relatives worked in the mill or in industries around
Sure.
the mill. So they were very bought into it. He ended up moving to Milwaukee, built a recycling business down there. So we get to share some stories
Nice.
about the
Yeah.
recycling
Nice.
field. And but he took a path and was able to bring on investors and had the confidence to take on these big projects. This being the biggest project he's ever done.
It's a big project.
Yeah, and bringing in the biggest piece of machinery that is
Very
in
cool.
North America in order
Yeah.
to do what they're doing in there. It's just amazing.
Mhm.
Talked to him. He was very open to us videoing it, but kind of came to the conclusion that we get videos from different sources, but
Sure.
they actually are doing the videoing now because they're able to show it, as part of their portfolio.
Right.
And it helps us. So they send us their information and we compile it and we put it out there so people can see these
Yeah.
big stacks coming down.
I
They're
saw
iconic,
a couple videos
Yeah.
of it. It's really cool.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Nobody's getting hurt. Like they're
Right.
taking every precaution. So pretty amazing. That whole area then will be cleared out. There is one warehouse that will stay there because it's a good warehouse, and that is being used by Billerud. That where the craft mill is, those boilers that are there and being taken down. I did get the confirmation on this that those could never have been fired up again. So they had to come down regardless, and they would have to build a new power generation system, which that's what that was providing power along with the dams to provide that power for the mill over the years. That's about 220 acres that'll be there. So going back to Quebco now, Co is using I don't know if they'll yell at me for the numbers, but something like 40 megawatts of power to power all the different facilities that are still running, like Pixel and Stevens Point,
Sure.
and Nine Dragons and Buren, and then what's going on with in ours with Sunoco and Billerud. So Quebco is important, and they still have At one point in time, I don't know exactly. It was about 150 megawatts. They're down to like the capacity of 100 megawatts right now. So
Wow.
they have about 60 megawatts left that they can use for new companies coming in. So that's exciting because that's a ton of power. I mean, you
It
can
is a
say
ton of
60
power.
megawatts, but it's a lot of power. So we're looking forward to being able to see what they're able to bring in, being CRG with the help of Quepco to be able to bring into manufacturing. And so that leads into that conversation. The two industries that are looking at this land are manufacturing and database companies, which comes into the whole conversation about DPO, digital processing optimizers, I think is what their name was. And so they were an AI database company. And these are the companies that are looking at the 220 acres plus the power that's there, that's
Okay.
available to that.
Good.
So ultimately, what we want as a city is manufacturing because it provides jobs. It
Right.
probably doesn't use as much power, but it needs, a decent amount of power to run the machines, but it provides jobs and we want jobs. But at the same time, we want Quebco to be strong. So we want the power too. So it's like this happy medium of kind of juggling both of those industries. DPO is a company that came into Quebco and said, we want start with 5 and go up to 20 megawatts of power. And we want about 5 to 15 acres of land. So that was a deal they worked out with Quebco for their land and their power off of the mill site. So it had nothing to do with the mill property. So they came to an agreement, sounded something like they had a year to kind of sign the contract with Quebco, and Quebco gave them that flexibility. So then what they do as a company is go out and say, hey, we have, power and we have land. Who wants to buy it? Who wants to use, this product or this industry? They had a year to do that and they couldn't find anybody. And that's why they came back and said, we can't do it. And then so the other side to that is they did not contact us or Quebco or anybody else. They put the press release out there a year ago that said, hey, $200 million investment in Wisconsin Rapids, right? So I learned quick on my feet. I found them and, got a meeting set up with the higher ups there. I just got as much information as I could to say to the people of the community, this is a DPO. This is who they are. This is what the business model is. And in the end, once it was all built, it was a few employees. Most were going to be remote because it's all computer stuff inside the building. So you would build the buildings, you would put the infrastructure in there. We would make some money off taxes for the city and the county and the school system and all that. But it wouldn't really give us any jobs to speak of, maybe a couple of people to watch over the building, make sure nothing was going on. Yeah. And there's plenty more of these coming because it's an industry that is new in the sense that what they're saying is if it becomes what the world says it's going to become, this AI revolution.
Yeah, this AI thing is kind of scary to me.
Yeah.
But
We're looking at doubling or tripling the power needs
Holy
of
cow.
our entire infrastructure. So another interesting fact I learned about electricity, and I'm sure there's lots of guys that work with it that'll be like, doesn't everybody know this? Oh. It's an immediate use. Right. You don't, unless you have a huge battery system to store that'll save up, like for your computer, like a power storage unit. But even then, it's like 5 hours of energy. You're not going to be able to power a city for very long. It's not how it works. No. So what we create is being used immediately. And so our system, relatively speaking, in the entire state of Wisconsin is built to serve the needs immediately. And then they have, like, in the morning, and you wake up, everybody flips the lights on, and we're doing everything in the morning. Yeah. It's called peak hours, or at night. Oh, sure. Yeah. When everybody gets home from work, we got peak hours. And of course, when everybody's running their air conditioners, it's peak season or whatever. Right. So they actually have peaker units out there that they can turn on and off. I got you. So so it's all used immediately. So now what they're saying is, which comes first, right? The chicken or the egg? Yeah. Do we build the facilities that need the power, or do we build the power that's going to run these facilities? But if we do the power first and then the facilities don't come, we just spend billions and billions of dollars on trying to build up the infrastructure for that industry. So it's kind of going to be like, this company comes, these the electrical different companies that are needed in order to put that together, sign a contract, build that infrastructure so that they have the power. So
is this gonna increase power prices for people in the area? Like
If anything, it would actually,
decrease?
again, don't,
I know,
I don't, I don't have magic
we're
wand.
not
Yeah.
quoting Matt the mayor right
Right,
now. We're
right.
just asking questions.
What
We're
it should
talking.
do, if I understand business well enough, is you spread out overall power usage,
Right.
and it should lower the cost.
Okay.
Anything that those companies are using goes on them, and they
Right.
may actually. There's two ways to do it. You can have the electrical companies, like there's a company that does the generation, there's a company that does the transmission, and then there's a local company that does the distribution.
Sure.
So everybody could contribute in building that infrastructure to make it happen. Or these AI companies can actually get the bill for it. If
Okay.
they know that it's coming and they're going to have ungodly amounts of money
Right.
from this AI stuff,
Yeah.
then we could actually ask them to pay the bill.
Okay.
Typically, if you do, well, again, I'm probably learning too much stuff, but hopefully what
Yeah.
I'm sharing is palatable for everybody that's hearing it. So yes, cart before the horse.
Okay.
And that's what happened with DPO, is they put the
Okay.
cart before the horse, and then they
Yeah.
ended up pulling out. But there's all these other companies that are
Right.
in the wings,
Okay.
wanting and waiting.
That's good news.
Yeah, there was a bigger company that was looking for like 500 megawatts. Well, it would take us 5 years to be able
Oh
to
my
build that
gosh.
infrastructure
Wow.
to do that. So then they kind of said, well, we got to look elsewhere also.
Yeah. That's the hard part about juggling everything,
Yeah,
you know, trying
yeah.
to make sure you can make everybody happy, and
Yep.
that's hard to do.
And also take care of our community, because if we
Right.
don't have jobs,
Yeah.
then people aren't making the money on the
That's true.
paychecks in order to put back into the economy and
Yep.
keep our circular
That's
economy
true.
going. So we need jobs as well as we need the data
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Yeah, we do. I agree.
It's interesting.
It is.
So that's that land back there. ND Papers, Nine Dragons in Buren, they have about 255 employees, and
Yep.
they're growing. They started up their old machine again. So, you know, they're kind of back and forth trying to feel out the markets and where they're at. My understanding is it's only going to help us with the tariffs, because, like, locally, not saying our products aren't going to go up for a while, but if we can get more stuff being made in America
Right.
that we're now selling to other countries and have
Mhm.
a better balance than what it's like we went from one extreme to the next, where we made everything in the world
Yeah, we
to
did.
everybody else making our
Yeah.
stuff.
To cut
And
the
now we gotta
prices,
come
and now
back.
it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's one of those things where if it's American, I can remember Levi jeans.
Mhm.
You know, that was like American made for, you know, and I loved Levi jeans and Wrangler jeans, you know, made here in America. And then when they started going overseas to other places and closing all the factories here,
Yeah.
it went to a less quality
Yeah.
a jean. And yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing about it is, like, you kind of have to look at, I didn't fully understand this. And again, there's lots of people in government that would, you know, say, doesn't everybody understand this? We are a municipal corporation. Like, we are incorporated.
Right.
So we are a business.
Mhm.
And people don't always get that. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no, you're here for me, by me. I'm like, well, we're here for the betterment of everybody. But in the end, you're one part of the puzzle. Like, all
Right.
the businesses, like right now with the reassessment of
Oh,
all the
sure.
properties.
Mm.
And that happened right after I got in. So
Yeah.
go back to social media, there's plenty of people that were like, I knew this mayor was going to do that once he got in there. And I'm like, wait, this is a state thing. Like, we have
Yeah.
nothing to do with it.
Right.
You know, if anything, I can at least ask the questions to say, wait a second, are we sure that it has to happen in this way? Is this fair? Is this everything? But in reality, what happened, which we all kind of knew already, is our residential property values went way up. Like,
Yeah.
our houses are worth more. Again, there's always the question about, is that because of inflation or is that
Right.
because of the value? But
Yeah.
in the end, on paper, everything went up, to
Mhm.
include my own house. You
Right.
know, so
Yeah.
I got jacked on taxes too, just like everybody else. But again, my house is now assessed, relatively speaking, at the value that it's worth on the open market. So that's all they really did. If anybody did get a break here, it's because retail, commercial, industrial properties were kind of footing the bill for a
Sure.
lot of the residential.
Yeah.
And when the residentials came up to more of that, where they should be, it gave the commercial, industrial business stuff a little bit of a break. Because in the end, the other question I was getting from people is, what are you going to do with all the extra money that you got from us? And I'm like, there is no extra money that we got from you, because we can only raise the levy limits, the taxes, to a certain level. Let's say right now it's 14 million is about what we get out of taxes from the properties. We can't go above the 14 million unless we get new development.
Right.
And they
Right.
build buildings, and then we get new taxes. And
Sure.
that taxes goes on top of that 14 million. I'm just using 14 million
Yeah,
as the
that's
round
fine.
number. So basically, if all the residential taxes went up, then the commercial and business taxes had to come down in order to stay at that 14 million.
Mhm.
So there was no extra money for the city itself
Right.
besides new development. Hopefully people can kind of wrap their mind around it. And it took me a while, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around everything that's going
It
on in the
does.
budget and all
I
that.
think it does take a while, and budgets, when
Budgets
you
are
talk
big.
budgets, yeah, they're
Hmm.
big. I mean, I look at, like, the school budget sometimes, and we
Oh,
just
yeah.
go, "What in the world?"
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but good grief. How much more money can we pour into, to me,
Mm.
a holy bucket? I mean, the bucket's got holes in it. Our kids aren't reading at grade level. They're not even close. They're not doing math at grade level. But we keep pouring more money. I noticed in the paper that the school district here has like 1,021 employees.
Mhm.
We only have like 4,000 something kids in the class.
Yeah.
What the heck? You guys have how many? What's the employees? 200?
230.
And we have 18,000 citizens, and
Yeah.
doesn't really jive too well with me. But
Yeah.
that's on a whole different level, and I will be doing some podcasting on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I will have to say this much. I reserve what I say about it until I can dive into it further
Sure.
to know the truth from the inside.
Oh,
Although
yeah.
it's tough to do that because you either have to work there or be,
Yeah.
elected to the board or whatever in order to really dive in.
Not really.
Yeah.
There's other ways.
I mean, if you can, you're right. You, as a
Yeah.
citizen, you would have
Yes.
to do your homework. That would
Yes.
be a mission.
Shirl
outside
does
of
do
your-
her, yes.
Yeah.
Shirl does do her homework,
Yes. Okay.
believe me.
Good, good.
And
Thank you.
especially on that level. Yeah, because it's very important to me that this is the third place I've lived in the state of Wisconsin. I have less land property here, small, much smaller house. And I pay by far more taxes here than I have anywhere, and most of it goes to the school. So it really opens
That's
my
in Grand
eyes.
Rapids.
That's in Grand Rapids,
Okay.
yes. And so it opens my eyes to what's going on. And then I question.
Yeah.
And, now we have a different superintendent who was here. So I have questions, and
Yeah.
I will continue to ask those questions of the board members and of the superintendent, because I believe wholeheartedly that the most important thing is the 4,200 kids.
Yeah.
That's the most
Absolutely.
important
Well,
thing.
it's our future, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we always say that. I know
Yeah,
children
see?
are our future, but it's
Yeah,
true. I
it's
mean,
true. Right.
what are we
And
teaching them?
and if we're not doing what we should be doing, and we have over 1,000 people working in the district, there's something
Mhm.
off there.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems to me like if you had 1,000 people working in the city, I could understand that more. With 18,000 people,
Mhm.
you've got an infrastructure to take care of, you've got roads, you've got all this other stuff. The school doesn't really have all that, do
Mhm.
they? So it's just an interesting little side.
Yep. Yep.
Sure, will be back.
I will. Yeah. I do. I will say I appreciate Ron taking
Sure.
on the job. I met with him recently just to talk
Good.
about some of the stuff that is out there. I respect the position that he is in to want to do a good job, to want maybe make some of those changes, or even change the direction of a ship if he
Yeah.
so chooses. How hard it is to do that once the bureaucracy is already in place.
Well, and that
It's
job
tough.
as a superintendent in school districts, probably one of the most political jobs in the area besides yours.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah.
And you're not in a political position.
Yeah.
You're like an executive director of a board
Yeah.
that is elected. It's a very difficult position to be in.
Mhm.
You have recommendations and things like that, and you get it from all this information. But yeah, it's a really difficult position to be in.
Mhm.
And I don't really know him that well
Mhm.
yet, but I would like to get to know him a little bit better because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
And
I think he's totally open to the questions. I find,
I'm sure.
I have not met anybody yet. I did said in the first probably 5 months, I tried to meet with, all the employees.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
a big ask. All the employees,
It is.
all the, like organizations in the community that
Sure.
kind of have a stake in what's going on with the city, and then all the surrounding community leadership. And I think it was very beneficial just to say, like, I'm open to conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that lets everybody know that when the broader conversations need to be had, like they're open to that. So
Well, let's see.
good.
I know that one of the big things before was the ATV UTV thing that
Mhm.
caused a big uproar in the area. I heard about that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that was fun. It's not over yet, for sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I
But
can
yeah,
give
that was one of them that I thought was, that was one of those that I think, like the cart before the horse. Something happens, and then all of a sudden everybody's what's going on?
Well, what I am learning, and something else just happened recently, and I'll have to decide if I want to go into that or not, because again,
Totally up to you.
yeah, I want to share like from my experience, but at the same time, I don't want to offend or hurt the people.
Sure.
that-
Absolutely.
In my attention to that point, the ATV UTV thing, I had my thoughts and whatever feelings, emotions, tried to do my homework, and usually my homework is involved in talking to the people that are involved in it on both sides. and try to get as much of their input and where they're getting their information from. And really, in the end, that develops relationships, you know. So,
Absolutely.
I found that, Maddie, who is now on the board,
Mhm.
Manny Palmquist and Brian.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I
It'll
can't
come
remember
to
his
me as
last
I'm
name. Yeah.
talking, but Brian, both excellent people, taking care of their family, their
Right.
community, the people that are around them.
Very
And they,
passionate about
yeah,
the
yeah.
Yes.
And they marched, Brian marched.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian. I think it was good to just get to know them and understand better. And to be honest, I never really had strong feelings one way or the other.
Sure.
Like if they come, they come. I think, this is where I meet the most on these is when I'm like, if you're going to be on the roads, especially after dark, these things need to be retrofitted with blinkers. And oh, did people have a wild sit down like that? And I'm like,
Poor
okay,
Matt.
you're telling me you can afford somewhere between a 10 and, $50 million, $1,000 machine, and you can't figure out how to wire up some lights to it.
They're
now.
very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not.
And so I don't really buy that, but that seemed to be a point of contention for a lot of people. So to those who that offends, my apologies. But at the same time, I still think what's more important than your feelings is the safety on the roads.
Absolutely.
And that's, to me, what I didn't understand is, like, if the state, the Wisconsin DOT, puts all this time and effort into telling us what we can do with
On
the
certain
roads,
that's
how they're
right.
built, how they're traversed, what can be on them, blinkers, license, registration, and everything else. And then they're willing to say, okay, all of you people have to follow one set of rules.
Right.
But these guys over here, they don't have to follow any of the rules.
Correct.
And they're going to be on the same roads as you and doing all this stuff. Now, okay, in rural areas where everybody's willing to cooperate, it's not like,
well, you have trails, you have all this,
semi trucks and everything else going on. Fine. Everybody's doing it. That's fine. And I understand they want to get into the resources of the city, the gas stations, restaurants, bars, whatever. But again, it is a different ball game. And to be honest, some mistakes were made along the way that, if we would have had, whatever, hindsight 2020 crystal ball, we probably could have made moves that would have probably got it passed through. But again, I didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know, and they ended up, they got mad at us when we didn't pass it through as a council right away. So then they went to referendum. And they changed the ordinance on that referendum, and they let the kids in to be 12 years old and to 15. And I think that turned off a lot of people. But in the end, they sent it to referendum. And then the people that were voting, that they asked to vote on it, voted it down.
Right.
And then right after that, by rights, when something is not voted up, you didn't create anything.
Right.
So you didn't take any action. So nothing was created. So by all rights, they could bring it back the next month and vote on the same thing or something different again. And it could be voted down. They can do that over and over again.
Right.
In reality, that's not really good politics, I guess, especially when you ask the citizens to vote on something, they vote it down, and then you bring it back and say, we're going to vote it up. Yeah. And they're like, wait a second. So
we just voted it down. Yeah.
So the silent majority that you don't hear from because they're silent, but they're the voters, and they're, then
and they pay attention to these things. They do. They pay attention.
They spoke up.
That's what we talked about before, is that maybe they don't pay attention all the time, but then all of a sudden something comes around and they're like, whoa, wham, no, that's not.
They have that 80%, like flexibility in the middle to say, we elected good people to do our bidding.
Yes, exactly.
And so, but then all of a sudden, when
something comes
wait
along,
a second, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of neat to see that side of it flare up, and everybody took a step back and said, okay, those same people, they still want to be able to do this. So how long are they going to wait? A year, 2 years before they bring it up again? And eventually it's going to pass. Yeah. And I hopefully everybody understands that. And I think everything's going to be fine. I still think they should have the exact, like the Wisconsin DOT should step in and say, if this is going to happen, they have to follow the exact same rules. I'd be shocked
if they let them drive on some of those roads. I mean, like 13, I can't imagine that,
I don't think, in the end that, they won't, because they're state highways.
Yeah.
But
right.
Eventually, that's what we're shooting for still, is to be able to get through.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, again, I to understand their points, I go to the Dells and I see them in there. I go to Kellner and I see them in there. I go north.
Yeah. Kellner,
it's just another vehicle.
Yeah.
Put a license plate on it, register it, no drinking.
Right.
Blinkers, so everybody's safe.
Good luck with that.
I know. Because that's what they want, right? They want to say, I want to drive on the roads without any of the rules.
Right.
In the end, if it's going to be like a little,
well, what it's going to take is, imagine if somebody got hurt or killed.
Yeah.
And then what? Then the uproar is really going to come. So
They
you
take a
have to,
turn too fast, tip
yeah,
over, give up.
exactly.
Again, it's worst case scenario, but you just don't know.
You don't.
And until it starts happening,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, I mean, I think that one was a good decision. And of course, I live out here, so it didn't affect me really. I
yeah,
mean, it would if I'm driving in there, but I drive in Kellner and I see it, and it's not any huge thing,
yeah.
you know.
And again, then I learned, I learned
Excuse
about
me.
the county. And again, all good
Yeah.
people at the county, but then you start to see, okay, we're going to take liberties and we're going to vote to open a Wisconsin Rapids road because it's also a county road and you don't have an
And
ordinance set up. So we're going to do that.
gosh.
And I'm like, well, in the end, I'm not going to, I'm not going to start any battles or, kind
Yeah.
of, but in the end, to me, that was not super like above board. And I
Yeah.
start to see a little bit more of that, like where people are doing things behind the scenes. And we take a lot of precautions to not let that happen, to open meetings and that.
Transparency.
And I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
I've
Right.
talked to people that were my friends, and if you're friends and you've been on a board and all of
Oh,
a sudden
yeah.
this thing blows up and you're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, that's
Yeah.
not what happened. So
Yeah.
you want to be super cautious as to
Yeah.
what you're doing and keep it in the council meetings as much as possible,
Mhm.
especially when you're on the same committees,
Right.
boards, and councils
Are
together.
are the
So,
council meetings, are they videotaped like on
yeah,
YouTube or
they're
anything?
all
Okay.
videotaped and
Good.
sent
And they're
out.
on the website and everything. Yeah. Good.
So it is good. And
Yeah.
and again, I've learned, again, the hard part is you're social. It's a community. You do
Yes.
know people.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
you can't.
You have kids in school,
Yeah,
in
everybody,
sports, things like
especially
that.
this size, like everybody
Yeah.
kind of knows everybody. And we should do what we can to make sure that we hold the elected people and, for that matter, the bureaucracy accountable too,
Yeah.
because they shouldn't be getting away with stuff that
Yeah.
is not
That's the
being
worst
approved.
part of politics really is the bureaucracy. I mean, it really is.
Well, it is, but it's actually not part of the politics at all. It's
Well,
people that are
it's
hired
not.
in there.
Yes, exactly. And they stay in there forever and ever. And yeah,
They have a big impact as
they
to how
do.
the
Oh,
city
yeah.
runs.
They really do. I know.
But
I'm
it
well
can be a
aware.
good thing.
Yeah.
But it can also have some dark sides too.
Yeah.
So they call it institutional knowledge.
Is that what they call
They
it?
call it that.
So it's
And
now changed to institutional
well, no,
knowledge?
I mean, like, it's like, well, what do we do in this situation? And you look at the people that have been there for
Sure.
20 years, 30
Right.
years and say, well, what do we do? And they're like, well, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
you're stuck in this rut.
Yeah,
of
and
like,
I
this is how we've
I've
always
never,
done it.
that's the worst sentence in the whole wide world
This
is,
is how
"Oh,
it
we've
goes."
always done it like that," or "We tried that and it didn't work," that, "Well, let's try something
Yeah.
else," let's do something else. Yeah, it's kinda tough. That's a tough position to be in.
There's also flexibility in not having policies about everything,
Sure.
because then you can, well, we can change it just by talking about it.
Right.
Or you could say, well, this is serious enough to be a policy. Let's get
Yeah.
it written down, and then let's have a policy to change the policy.
Yeah, and do you guys, okay, so, I mean, I know there's obviously committees and everything else on the council, do they have, like, a policy committee that looks over the policies and revises them and looks at them over years? Or sometimes what I saw in school, let's just take that, for
Yeah.
instance, because they did some open records requests in the school district, and, some of their policies were dated 1974. They'd
Mhm.
never been, nothing documented on there, and never been revised, never been looked at.
Yeah.
Now, you and I both know that a lot's changed since 1974.
Right.
So it kind of blew my mind, and I questioned that a lot.
Mhm.
And I do think, and now they are looking at policies, which I think
Yeah.
is a good thing. And
Police department, fire department are
yes,
really good at policy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they actually, as Chief Hostins came in and Chief Kudrow,
yeah. I've had I've heard good things about them.
yeah, they're doing good.
Good.
Again, uh, I do realize that the main issues that happen in the city many times are building relationships,
Sure.
building trust,
Yep.
and communicating
Yeah.
directly with the people that need to be
Absolutely.
communicated with.
Sure.
And don't let it fester. Just speak your piece and
Mhm.
let it be. Let's fix it.
Right.
And we're doing a lot of that, which hopefully this is, again, I never you never really know it's being said behind your back as the leader, but you hope that the overall sense of calm is a good thing.
Mhm.
And it seems like people are communicating more effectively, and
Good.
we worked through some of the issues and all that stuff. Again, not that anything major was happening. It was just status quo kind of stuff.
All in a year and a half. That's pretty good.
Well, we
Matt.
try, and that's what the communications department that I'm working towards is not just going to be like community engagement. It's also going to be engaging the departments with each other and making it as efficient as possible, with the ultimate goal of lowering the overall cost of what it takes for us to do what we're doing.
Mhm.
It is a $42 million, say a $40 million budget ultimately. So it's big enough that a lot of this stuff is given for a specific thing and
Sure.
use it for a specific thing.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Probably 86% of it goes towards admin stuff and all.
It's always
police,
people.
yeah,
It's
it
always
is.
people,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we gotta be aware of that. But
Yep.
again, everybody's doing a great job.
Good.
Policies do need to be looked over, and like, that's
Yeah.
going to be part of the communications department because it involves bringing everybody together
Sure.
in one conversation versus silo conversations
Yeah.
between
I would
individual
agree with that, and I
departments.
think it does take time. A year and a half
It
is,
does.
and you're already looking and thinking that way, because policies are super important to an area, and policies and procedures, and if
Mhm.
you can get that under control, you've got a lot.
Yeah,
It's a big,
yeah.
big job.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be interesting. It's hard to remember if we talked about this on or off, but I'll run again, and that'll be a
Yeah.
3-year term. And at the end of the
Yeah.
5 is where I really want to see, like,
What I accomplished.
yeah,
Here's my
am I
this was
making
what
an
I set as my
impact?
goals,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
what
And if
yeah,
we're in the middle of some stuff, and I get the sense that people are like, "It'll do better. We'll do better if you stay and
yeah, right.
keep the same
Sure.
consistency going," because it is a turnover, like a
Right.
turbulent turnover. Can you
It
imagine
is.
like a new boss every 2 years?
Yeah.
Like, that would be
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I think at that point we'll kind of see where things are at. If I feel like I'm just here filling a chair, I don't want that. That's
Yeah.
not what I want for my life. So
Yeah.
I'll
Well, I
make that call at
I
five
feel like,
years.
I feel comfortable with you. I think you've done a pretty good job. Like I said, I talk to a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I haven't ever heard, no one's come up to me and said, Matt Zacher, he sucks as a mayor.
There's a
No,
few out there.
I'm sure there probably
Social
are.
media is
Yeah,
where
there.
they're at. So
Well, social media, like I told you,
yeah,
people can sit behind their computer and do and say whatever they want, but they would not come up to you. And this is one of the things that I used to think was interesting too, is like you see a letter to the editor or
yeah,
something about someone.
mhm,
Let's say, for instance, just take it because
yeah,
you're the mayor
mhm,
and see a letter to the editor and it's a negative letter, and you just go, wow, I don't even know who this person is.
yeah,
And you pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, can you meet me for coffee?
mhm,
Now, it's up to them to be able to meet you for coffee to talk about it. Because I think that's how you open a dialogue. And, somebody that doesn't maybe like your decisions or like you, whatever, for some reason, and they don't even know you.
right.
And that's the part that kind of has always bothered me
Yes, yes,
is if you have something and you're curious, find out, ask. Don't be someone who sits down and writes a letter
mhm,
about somebody that you don't even know, that you've never met, that you've never talked to, that you've never reached out to. It would be a lot better if you had something to go by. If I reached out to you and then you were a scoundrel to me,
yeah.
a lot easier to write.
Right.
Matt Zacker's a scoundrel,
This is what happened. This
Yeah.
is why. At
Yeah.
least there's reasoning behind it.
Exactly. Instead of just writing it
Yeah,
and sitting in social media and saying, I just never have been one that likes that.
yeah.
I've always been somebody who's been very easygoing about, and confrontation
Mhm.
doesn't bother me.
It's been an interesting learning experience too, and like I learned this during the campaign that because I spent 20 years in work building a business, and
Sure.
that was with businesses, with residents, with
Hmm.
commercial
Sure.
retail. Like, it kind of, as I was doing it, it was never a thought in my head that I'm going to be in politics later on. But I realized between all the business stuff and then all the 4 kids being in different grades, different
Hmm.
schools, different sports, and then just being involved in different activities, chamber of commerce, stuff like that. I made so many connections, which helped when you say, hey, I'm going to throw my head in the ring for
Hmm.
mayor. And they're like, oh, most people said, never saw that coming. But ultimately, I had their confidence
Right.
to be able to say,
Mhm.
and again, if you live in Grand Rapids or Rudolph,
Hmm.
people in Wisconsin Rapids.
Absolutely.
So the word, we built these circles. So I didn't just have one circle that I
Mhm.
grew up. So I noticed that the naysayers about me kind of more so have that circle. Like this, they grew up here. They
Oh,
have a
sure.
certain circle of friends or,
Yes.
relatives, but they also, the other people in the community know them and know history. I
Sure.
don't know any of that. And I
Right.
don't really want to know any of that. I'd rather
Yeah.
just focus on
Me
the
too.
needs of the community and the government
Which is what your
I'm
job
taking
is.
care of.
Yeah.
I would like to say that, none of that stuff bothers me, but as a human being, I think,
Yeah.
I do have thick skin. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I have thick enough skin,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it would be nice. I would prefer that these people would come in because I've offered,
Yeah.
this is my number. Give me a call. Let's get a
Yes.
cup of coffee. Let's
Right.
talk through the things that you think are,
And even
not
if you
doing
don't
well.
agree,
Yeah. Let's
you
just
can agree to
have a
disagree, and
respectful, build
yes.
the respect and
Yes.
understand who I am as a
Right.
person
Right.
versus, but then I also realized that social media is
Yes.
a industry in and of itself, and it's designed around getting people to follow you,
Click,
and
click,
who
click.
they want
Yeah.
is the negative people in the
Yeah.
community. And
Those
those are the
algorithms
folks
and all that stuff
yeah,
too, that it was very confusing to me. That's why I don't like clicking on stuff. I don't like
yeah,
doing it. I'm not a big social media person. I mean, doing a podcast, yes, and I kind of have to be. I mean, like I
mhm,
have, the Shirl and Shirley shows on Facebook. And I'm also LinkedIn, I'm on that kind of thing. I'm on X now, and that started like last August, I think. I was kind of forced into doing that. And it's like, I don't click on a whole lot. And I only post what I want to post. I don't, I post my podcast and things like that. And I'm
But you can do good. I mean, that's the
right.
whole,
There's a lot.
good
Yeah.
versus evil thing. Like you
Yes.
can,
Yeah.
okay, so we have what I'm considering as a relatively small group of people, but they're loud.
Yes.
And their mantra is Wisconsin Rapids is a dying community area. That's what they're trying to sell people.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's not. I
No.
mean, we're doing great things. We're working hard. And certainly why poo-poo
Right.
all the people that are trying to do something.
Right.
I'm not promising anything that isn't a possibility.
Sure.
Like I'm not making promises that I'm
Right.
not working really hard to keep.
Yeah.
So it's based in reality. So why not help? Just help.
Yeah.
And if you really, and then you just have to accept that if this is how they feel about their community, then chances are pretty good it's a deeper issue in their entire life than just what's going on right there.
True that.
And that I can't help unless
I moved here. We moved here 5 years. It was June 2nd. It was 5 years for us.
Yeah.
It was a big change for me, a huge change, actually. I have learned, that first year was hard. And of course, we moved during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, you didn't know, I didn't know a soul. I knew my chocolate lab, Maggie, and my husband. And he was working in Point. And he's like, you hardly saw each other except at late at night and stuff because he was working on a tough job. So that really took me a good year to get to where I said, Shirl, you got to start doing something here. You're starting to get a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And the podcasting thing started because I remember talking to a friend of mine from Milwaukee and I said, I don't have any media here. We really don't. They don't go to
That's the battle.
Yeah. They don't go to the city council meetings. They don't go to, they don't go to school board. So I don't know what's going on, what's going on. Mm-hmm. And my friend said, stop whining about it and become the media.
Yeah.
What the heck does that mean? I started a blog and I thought, I could probably I'd listened to podcasts for quite a while. My son in high school and stuff, it turned me on to like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. So I started listening to podcasts and stuff a long time ago. And I thought, hey, I can get a microphone, headphones, and I can figure this out. Yeah. Honestly, learning the whole process, learning how to, do a podcast and what program and what hosting site and all this, it really took a lot. And I learned a whole lot. Yeah. And so since then it's been like, oh, okay. So I'm like almost at 5,000 downloads. So I'm hoping yours brings me up to 5,000. That's pretty good. So. It's pretty good. It's really good. For somebody who's just, a person living in Wisconsin Rapids who just kind of gets on and talks to people. Yeah. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just having conversations. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
Young kids getting into it.
They are.
And I'm like, you got to market it. You got to figure out all the different ways you can tap into it.
I had someone call me recently and said, hey, I know you've been podcasting for a while. And actually, it's only been like 2.5 years. Okay. And I don't do, I don't have, this isn't my way of making money. I don't, I just kind of do it because I want to have conversations with people. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good thing. I think so about once a month, I do a podcast. Sometimes I do more. Yeah. It just depends on what's going on. I found that I get a lot of people that contact me from all over that will contact me in comments and stuff. And, and I'm the only one that sees that, the analyticals and things like that. And what's interesting is that a lot of people think, okay, so people don't download it all the time because there's times I listen to podcasts. I don't download every podcast I listen to. Mm-hmm. I just will listen to a podcast. Yeah. And a lot of times people don't understand that if you download it, it gives you more, more points, towards your podcast. You follow, you share, you do this, still being at like almost 5,000 downloads for mine is pretty darn good for somebody who doesn't, I don't put commercials on mine. I don't do ads, things like that. So it's kind of interesting and I actually enjoy doing it. So it's kind of fun. It's not a chore for me. Uh-huh. It's kind of a fun thing. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
So what's the magic number that if you were trying to get to it, what is that magic number?
I don't really know exactly. Some people, they like to have, like 500,000 people that are followers, things like that. And that means that every time, if they're a follower, then every time you have a new podcast that comes up, it downloads automatically onto their system. They can listen, share, whatever. But I have a lot of friends and that don't even know how to get on a podcast. Yeah. So I have to send them the link. It's like, so they go to that link and they just listen to it. They go to my website. I have a website too. Yeah. And that's through my Podbean, which is my hosting site. That's what I do. I send them the link because they don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to put a program onto their phone. They don't even know how to do an app, So I'm like, don't worry about it. Just listen to the podcast, share it with your friends, share it with, and so that's how I get a lot of the information out. And I see that. I mean, I see like 13% of my stuff is Alexa. People, at their home.
Yeah.
Alexa, turn on the Shirl and Shirley show. It's like,
yeah.
oh, that's pretty interesting, and a lot of it is Spotify, Amazon, iHeart. I mean, there's tons of them that I'm on. I'm on about 15 different platforms. But then that doesn't even count the ones that are on LinkedIn or Facebook or that I email out. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, a big part of our goal will be to get, I say our website, and maybe it's going to end up being an app or whatever, but connected to the city so that they're getting exactly what you said. We don't have media.
Right.
We have all these things that are acting as media, but then I get people that are, and again, you could tell somebody, okay, if you don't know what's going on in the city of Wisconsin Rapids, it's not for lack of me trying to get it to you. Right. It's got to be a little bit of a lack of you putting in the effort to figure out how to get that information.
Maybe you should do little short videos too.
No, those we do. So I do Mayor's Minute.
Okay.
So that's part of it. So every week,
think I did see Mayor's Minute. Yeah, that's
every
good.
week I put out a couple minutes. I think this last one was about the mills. It got to be about 6 minutes. Which, but then I did a podcast with Chief Goodrow from the fire department.
Good.
We're working on one for the police department with Chief Hostins. I think there's local groups. I just I don't necessarily want to be the host.
Yeah,
but until somebody picks it up and says, hey, I'm the host for the city of Wisconsin Rapids and takes it on, I'm totally fine with that.
Cool.
And we also have to build up the following,
Right.
So
it does take time. That takes time.
And then it's always tricky because you're trying to reach 40,000 people within this area.
Yeah, right.
And how do you do that? Because really you could be building up your platform outside of the community.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if that does any good or not.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Even for a city, you think?
Yeah,
to spread the word and what you're doing?
I think then what happens is people outside maybe that are looking to go somewhere.
Okay.
Oh, I think I'll look at Rapids. I never thought of it. Because I'll tell you, when we picked Rapids, many of our friends in Point, things like that, as we looked at Plover, Point, all this, I just was not happy. I don't like big city. I just don't. I like small town. Coming here, Grand Rapids especially, I just remember sending the picture, the link, because I was living somewhere else at the time, sending it to my husband saying, hey, go look at this house. Go look at this house. Go look at it. And I said, let's look at Rapids. And I found this house. People were saying, oh, don't Rapids. They got a lot of property crimes. They got a lot of it. Everywhere has crime. But I'm like, wait a minute. I was looking it up too, crime statistics and things. I'm like, based on per capita, I mean, you got a college town, you got, this, I kind of am liking this area. And then when he came that day and looked at this house, and he was in the basement, of course, because he's a man and, he's a plumber. So he was looking at he's showing me all this stuff on this. I'm like, show me upstairs. I want to see what kind of fixtures I want, what kind of cabinets are in this place.
That's awesome.
It was funny. And it was very funny. He's like, yeah, this furniture is great. He's going, I'm good. I'm happy. I was like, good. We basically bought it that night.
Okay.
And that was, I told our realtor, this is it. This is the house. We want it. Let's do whatever we have to do.
That's awesome. Glad you found your way here.
Yeah, me too. And I think there's a reason for that. I really do. And I think there's a reason that I extended myself doing this. I went out on a limb as not a young person.
Yeah.
And even my son thinks it's crazy. He's 30 and he's like, I can't believe you have that many downloads.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You hear more and more. Like there's lots of these people, in the generation.
There are.
And they are looking for how to connect with each other versus trying to listen to some kid talking about stuff they don't understand. So
I think you guys should be using, and this is my opinion, that podcast booth you have at the library. That is rockin' podcast booth. I went there one day. I think it was Colin that I had to go through like an hour of training with them. That is a cool place.
I'm glad to hear it.
Soundproof room.
Yeah.
I've never used it. I want to. I've thought about it because he has all kinds of little sidebar things that you can do. Like I could go whoop, and things like that with little buttons and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I'm happy because they had started that as a music room.
I did see that.
Room.
Yeah.
And I came to him when we started doing our stuff and said, is there any way we can do our podcasting in here, even though we ended up doing it somewhere else? But
you should be using that room because it is a really good room. And their podcast program is one of the best.
So,
I couldn't afford
podcasting. So when it's not videoed, you're just talking right now. There's no video of us talking.
Right.
So are they both called podcasts?
Yeah.
So it's
you can do audio. You can do audio only, or you can do video. Oh yeah, that's right. I have YouTube too. See, I do have video on mine. program now, but I don't normally do the video one just because I don't know. I don't want to have to like look great every time
Sure.
every time I turn on a mic, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times the people aren't sitting here with me. You happen to
That's
be
true too. Yeah.
today
Yeah.
with me,
Mhm.
but most of the time people aren't sitting here with me. So it's like I can go in there in my sweats or whatever and just put on my headphones and I'm doing a podcast.
Doing business.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it is. I mean, I don't have a studio or anything like that, but that studio rocks, and
Yeah.
it really is. The program is fantastic.
Okay.
It had to cost the city some money. All right,
The library was able to, yes, in the end it is
I'm
because
sure,
it's a city library. So yes,
but hopefully
yeah,
people use it because when I was there, I mean, you know, I went through the class, and him and I had a great conversation.
yeah,
And he was very good at it. But I think they were doing a podcast for a while, and then they kind of stopped.
yeah. I mean, again, it's set up for the community, right?
Yeah,
And it's not really. I had to wrap my mind around this because I opened my mouth when I was an alderman about. I mean, it's like $2.2 million for the funding for the library, depending on the year.
yeah,
And you know that is a question mark. I mean, it's a really well funded library.
yes, it
according
is.
to,
Yeah,
in comparison to most libraries. But at the same time, it has evolved from, when you think of a library, when I was a kid, we went there for books
sure.
and that was it.
Yeah,
And we didn't talk.
right.
We just went
Yeah,
there, got our
right.
books and left. Now it's more like, you have people that have housing
Sure,
challenges,
sure.
spending a lot of time there. You got kids going
Yeah.
there, but that can't get into the Boys and Girls Club. So it's a
Right.
little bit of a community center
Yeah.
as well as a library.
Well, plus they have movies and things they show.
Movies and
Yeah, they do.
programming.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they do. But
So
I would like to know how much they use that podcast booth. I should ask that.
yeah,
I don't know the new director. I knew Catherine when she.
yeah, Catherine left.
Yeah.
Heather Kincaid is the new director, doing
Yeah.
a great job.
Okay, good.
Super smart and
Good.
personable, able to talk to, communicate well. So she's going to do well. The board has done some good work on getting connected and being on a
Yeah, I heard
a
there's some new
similar
people on
page.
the
Yeah,
board,
it's-
which is
yeah.
good.
Like you want people to have differing opinions, but
Yeah.
you don't know. You want to make sure you're not divided, I guess.
Yeah,
You want
yeah.
to, we're all in the best interest of the future of these
Right.
departments and organizations. So they're doing a great job.
Good.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to that and everything that they're doing. And
Yeah. Well,
lots of
that's a great
changes to come.
spot to have a podcast, and
Good.
it is a soundproof room.
It's good.
When you're in there, you don't hear anything that's going on out there.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that very much. And I have thought about, hosting. Actually, Catherine and I had talked about doing a podcast, about the library and stuff. And we wanted to do that in that room. And
Mhm.
it just never worked out because she was always busy doing other stuff. And she wasn't here that long, huh? I knew her from up in Rice Lake.
I'm gonna say like 2 years. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. She did a good job. She got a nice job offer, so she's going to be doing great things for the library system up in that area.
Oh, good
She'll
for
be
her.
overseeing like I don't know if it's like called a region of the libraries.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
Well, good for her. She's young.
yeah, I didn't realize it's a very tight knit group of people.
Yes, it is.
Wisconsin or
Very much
even,
so. They all know
nationwide.
each other. Yeah, they all know each other pretty
So-
well. Yeah.
And
That's
they
good.
provide valuable services for
Mhm.
the overall
Good.
community. So
Good.
it's good.
Well, that's a good
Appreciate
thing.
what they do.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
And I do go there. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't go super often anymore. I used to go there a lot more.
Yeah.
But, when summer comes along and all the kids stuff goes on, all those,
Mhm.
whatever, I stay away from there if I can.
Mhm. Yeah, they're doing some big projects. The front doors that used to be on they're still on Grand Avenue, but they haven't been used in quite a while. And they're opening those up so they have access to both floors while they redo the
Okay.
elevator
Oh,
project, which is a really big undertaking.
yeah.
And it's a slow process like anything. And we're moving along in order to get the pieces in place to get that set up and
Sure.
done. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's good.
All right.
We're doing good.
Well, Matt Zacher, I think you did a fine job.
Yeah, I
We
appreciate
talked
it.
for quite a while.
Yeah. It
Good.
was fun. It was very engaging.
Yeah.
So,
Anything else that you want to lead up? Maybe one thing that you could do is tell people how they can get hold of you,
Yeah,
or give them like the website again,
Yeah.
and anything else that you can think of that they can contact or get in contact with people. And
yeah. Like I said, the new website is Wisconsin Rapids. It's going to be .gov now, so that's going to get you to it. But the old one will get you there. So one way or the other, you're going to end up there. That has all the information for department heads, for me. If you just have questions and you want to return email and get you where you need to go, that's going to help out. Otherwise, I have my email is on the website. It's mzacher@wirapids.gov. But also my cell number, direct number is 715-315-2925. To me, call, text, send a message. I can meet you anywhere when you have time, and we can talk through your issues. If you want to talk about ideas, again, I can't accomplish everything for everybody, but I certainly am willing to help introduce people to each other that have like ideas, because really in the end it's not me and it's not the government. Like, the government is designed to make the things that the community wants the government to accomplish
Yeah,
get it
have the
done.
services
Get it done.
available
Have the
if you
services
yes,
available.
right.
I'm not the guy that's out there saying this is what I want and I'm going to do it regardless of what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
Like, that's a dictator, and we're not designed around dictatorship. We're designed around, my job is to make sure that the people you elected tell the people that are hired what to do and how to do it, and make sure it's done efficiently and cost effectively as possible, and then move on to the next thing that you're working on. So
And
it's up to you
to
guys.
spread
Yeah.
cheer,
Yeah. And,
that's it.
and for
Yeah,
me, yes. So my job, make sure they're doing that, and to make sure I'm communicating with you guys so
right.
you feel like you're being heard by the government, which is me,
Mm,
bridging that gap between the residents and businesses and the government itself, and make sure that gets done. But we're not out rogue trying to make, like, our own pet projects happen. Granted, there are things you have to decide, like the bigger projects that are happening that you want to take on,
right.
to make sure, like, when I'm thinking about Wisconsin Rapids, I'm not thinking about in my term, or what would happen in the next even 10 years, or what I
Mhm.
get to take credit for. When I think about, like, what's happening right now, I'm thinking about what's in the best interest of Wisconsin Rapids in the next 100 years, or even 500 years, because
Sure.
really we're going to be here, and our ancestors in one
Right.
shape or another will be here. So if we set ourselves up now, let's assume that we're always going to need energy. We're not going back to fires.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then how do we set up our energy systems now in order to put us in the best possible position down the road? And we can use what was built by the mill in order to, as a template, as to what we can do for ourselves in the future and what that would look like. So those are the things I'm thinking about, and those are the things I'm more than happy to talk about. Again, I'll always be honest. If I feel like stepping on a border of a non-disclosure agreement, then I have to just stop, and
Yeah.
everybody's got to accept that. That's not like we're part of a good old boys network or something like that. It's just saying we want to make sure that the businesses who owe us nothing as a government continue to trust us enough to do business with us and bring us into the
Absolutely.
conversation. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm protecting. I'm not trying to play favorites or anything like that. I'm just trying to stay in the good graces of the private entities that work outside of the government
Yeah.
and be a part of that conversation. Try to
People
do
that
what's in the best
people that
interest.
work in businesses sign
Mhm.
non-disclosures. I mean,
Yes,
it's just a normal thing for
it
many
is.
businesses.
Yeah.
So
And when
for a
the day
mayor to do it
comes,
with,
mhm,
people that are coming in or something, I mean, it's just a normal thing. To me, it seems
it
like that
is.
should be.
And they
And
don't
there
have
is
to.
so much
Yeah.
and there is so much you can talk about, and there is so much you should talk about, and then the other, you should let it go. And yeah, but I appreciate your positive attitude. That's a really important thing to
Mhm.
me, and that you're representing Wisconsin Rapids the best that can possibly be done.
Yeah.
That's the most
Appreciate it.
important thing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shirl.
Thank you for listening to the Shirl and Shirley Show. And I appreciate Mayor Matt Zacher taking his time today to come over and just chat and fill us in on all kinds of good information. So hopefully you'll share, like, and spread it out. And if you got comments, please leave them. I have no problem with that. Thank you. Have a good day.